What's going on, golf addicts? It is Tour Junkies After Dark, presented by DraftKings. I'm David Barnett of the Tour Junkies. This guy is Pat Perry of the Tour Junkies, and we are lit, and we have just recorded our podcast. It is Monday night of the Arnold Palmer Invitational week, and we're going to have some disagreement tonight. If you don't know the format already, we just came off the podcast. We're going to talk about the guys we disagree on, and then we're going to give you our favorite DraftKings Sportsbook picks of the week, which, by the way, last week, Patrick, I don't know if you remember, but we tipped a little Keith Mitchell top 10 bet at 33 to 1. 33 to 1. So if you listen to that one.
Wish we'd done the 2-win bet, which was probably about 150 or 200 to 1.
Yeah, I think it was like 200 to 1 or something, yeah.
What is on your shirt, by the way?
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Who is that? You know who that is?
That is Post Malone.
Bow, 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 bow. I love Post Malone, man. Me and Posty, we go way back.
I'm a big fan, too.
I'm a big Post Malone.
You put me on to him. All right, so yeah.
Got a little Post Malone, feeling fresh. So it was a great week last week with old Keith Mitchell winning, taking it down. We had him in DFS. It was a great time. Hope you guys did, too. Had a little green screen disease. Excuse me for the cough.
There's that cough. We talked about it on the podcast. It's just never going away. By the way, DraftKings, if you want to put odds out there on when DB's cough is going to go away, I think there's going to be there's high interest in that.
I've had it since November. I'm thinking June is a good bet because pollen's about to kick in here in Augusta. And so that's going to keep it rolling. We're going to keep the momentum going. And I'm thinking June is probably when the cough is going to stop. So for now, you're going to have to deal with it every now and then. But at the same time, you got to deal with Pat over here fidgeting because he's so damn OCD.
I'm very fidgety. Everything's going on. I got all this stuff. Fidgety drinks, whatever. Got the earpods in my, the hair, everything's.
Pat looks like he's giving signals down the third base. He looks like he's giving signals down the third baseline of a baseball game. He's like,
I would be a great third base coach, wouldn't I? You would not be able to tell what the hell I'm talking about.
No.
Because there'd be some stuff.
You look ridiculous. You're always fidgeting. All right, let's get to the content, though. Right off the top, I am going to tell you a guy that I disagree with you on. Now, this is a tough one, but it is what it is. I looked at him, and I'm just not ready. Justin Rose at $10,700. Now, Rosie is a. Hey, we're
number 2 in the world, not number 1, because I guess DJ, they both didn't play last week, so they flip-flopped, but whatever.
Hey, okay. I gotta flex on you a little bit. Now Rose is a world-class player. You just mentioned it. I in no means think he's gonna miss the cut. He's probably gonna. I could see him finishing, in the 30s, T30 or so. Now, he is a world-class player, as I mentioned. He does have pretty good course history here. However, when I look at the stats, which my favorite stats this week are greens in regulation, good drives, so like total driving almost, and strokes gained putting on Bermuda surfaces. He really isn't great on any of those. He's 58th in the field in the last 100 rounds in strokes gained putting on Bermuda. And this is some grainy Bermuda stuff. Like, these guys got to be able to roll the rock on the grainy Bermuda and read the greens. Now, obviously, he hasn't had a hard time doing it, but I can't get down with the 10-7 because I need more of him than a T30. I need a top 10. And I just feel like to return value on DraftKings, the odds of the top 10 for his very first event back, I think I'm out on Rose. Convince me. Sway me.
This is going to be an easy convincing. Because first off, let me just talk about this whole getting the rust off. This isn't you coming out playing, David, for the first time in 2 months. This is a professional golfer. They do this for a living. So this is. I feel like that's like the tout thing to say. Like, oh, the guy hasn't played for a month, and so he's got some rust and whatever else. They do this for a living, okay, David? They practice this game every day. They've played these courses all the time. They know what they're doing, and so I don't have any worries whatsoever when it comes to rust with Justin Rose. You look at his course history here. He was 3rd last year, 13th in 2017, and was top 10 in 2016. So if you're worried about this top 30 or whatever you're talking about. Where is that coming from? I have no clue. And then the stats, off the tee, he's 8th in the field. He's 4th around the greens. And I think you might be downplaying, scrambling a little bit on difficult courses like this. You're not distracting me at all by all all this stuff you're doing there in the background. One of the things I like is par 5 scoring here. And, we've got 3 par 5s out here that are 550 to 600 yards. He is 4th in the field in scoring on that distance for a par 5. I like that as well. Justin Rose is as solid of a play as there gets this week. You're just wrong. And I don't know if you're fading him, is that what you're doing? Or you're just not going to play him? You're just going to play less of him, I guess I could say. But I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean, I think you got to pick your spots up here. And as we mentioned on the podcast, I'm a fan of Rory and Ricky. So if I'm going to play Rory and Ricky, I'm not going to have any Justin Rose. Now, here's the other thing. If you look at the last 5 years and his tremendous course history here, he has played an event in the month in the week or 2 weeks leading up all 5 years. This is the first time in the last 6 years that he hasn't done that. So that's all I'm saying. I think Rosie could finish top 25. I think he finished top 20. I think he finished top 15. But you need him to do more than that at 10-7. That's all I'm saying. All right, hit me with what you got.
Well, one of the things we talked about on the show was, the fade of the week is always especially above 9K, very tough to find the guys here. Like last week, I was fading Koepka, coming off of just poor recent performance at Mexico, which I wasn't factoring in all that much. But then before that, he had some poor performance. And he ended up doing great at the Honda. But Bryson DeChambeau is a guy that you faded on the podcast. And I just don't get that. You know what? He was bad in Mexico. But other than that, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's been good on this course, was second here last year. He was T27 the first time he played here as a professional. He's checking all the boxes. He's 6th off the tee, 4th in opportunities gained, so he's scoring. He's 6th in strokes gained on par 5s. Obviously in great recent form. I got to understand how you can fade Bryson DeChambeau on this course, because to me, there's not a whole lot that tells me to fade this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, it's not a comfortable fade. I actually feel better at $1,000 more expensive fading Rose than I do DeChambeau, despite Rose being obviously a better player. And if you ask me, who do I think has a better chance of making the cut, I'm going to say Justin Rose. But in terms of DFS and DraftKings, this is just what I want to do. I do feel like DeChambeau, he's not a great putter on Bermuda. He's 61st in this field in the last 100 rounds in putting on Bermuda. And if you look at greens in regulation over the last 24 rounds, he's 73rd over the last 24 rounds. Now, Bryson came out hot this year. Came out hot. But we saw, the 56th place finish at the Genesis, like you mentioned, or at WGC. He lost 5 strokes putting. Yeah,
but you can't put anything into that, I don't think.
He lost 5 strokes putting. He couldn't chip.
Those greens were terrible.
The greens weren't great. I agree. I'm thinking if you're looking for a reason to fade a guy, to make a bold call, and that's what we're all about here on Tour Junkies. That's what we do on the podcast, is we want to make a bold call, a bold fade over 9K. And if I got to pick one guy over 9K that I'm not really, think is going to do that well, I think DeChambeau is one guy. I mentioned the poor greens and regulation numbers, the poor strokes gained putting on Bermuda numbers. So I'm just in the T56 in Mexico. I think if you're looking for reasons, that's what you got. I don't feel great about it.
It's an ownership thing with him, too.
It could be an ownership thing, yeah.
You really got to check your ownership with DeChambeau. I'm not trying to make your case for you, but you know what? If he's high owned, that could be the reason I'd fade him.
100%. All right, I'm going to hit you with one more that I wasn't really a fan of. This guy is 101st in this field, 101th in this field in strokes gained.
He's old thumb again.
Strokes gained putting on Bermuda. He is not checking the box in total driving. He doesn't really check the box right now in greens and regulation. Now, you're going to go to his course history, which is okay. But byeong-hun An at $7,500, I see the made cut potential. I just don't see the guy really setting the world on fire. I mentioned the horrible strokes gained Bermuda number. I mean, look at the Honda last week where he lost nearly 6 strokes putting. The guy clearly hates Bermuda greens, and he can't get them. He's not getting them in the short term, and he's not getting them in the long term. And when that happens, your upside is limited. You talked about it on the podcast, in the course breakdown, that putting matters. Putting matters every week, but putting really tests out well when you look at Bay Hill and the Arnold Palmer Invitational. If this guy is not comfortable on Bermuda, the ball striking has to stay premier for him to even sniff a top 25. So if he's not going to sniff a top 25 unless the ball striking stays rock solid, I'll take the fade on byeong-hun. Convince me otherwise.
I'll say this, and An is, he's kind of pushing into flyer range at 7,500. But here's the thing. I mean, the guy's been playing really well lately. You can get hot putting any week. We talk about that all the time on the podcast. So if you're looking at putting stats, that's probably one of the most variable stats that are out there. And I don't think this is a ball striker's course. I think this is actually a course where if you do get hot for the week putting, that it doesn't matter how much you ball strike because you got to be good around the greens. You got to do everything else well. You can bomb it out here. There's so many different things on this course. It's a totally different course than we saw last week at the Honda Classic. That is a traditional ball striker's course. And, you look at An, he's played well here. Last year, he was top 15. He made the cut, was T50 in 2017, had a top 35 finish in 2016. So it's obviously a course he's done well on. And then when you go over to the stats, I mean, off the tee, 29th in the field. He's 17th in opportunities gained, so he's scoring. He's third around the greens. I mentioned scrambling. I think that's a stat that you're not mentioning enough. And we didn't talk about as much on the podcast that I like. And then, you look at proximity, 4th in the field. So if you're hitting it close, you're giving yourself chances to make some putts. Now, you may not be putting all that well, but like we said, if it's variable, like putting is, if you're hitting the ball close, you never know. One week it could hit. I think it could hit this week for Ben-On. So that's another reason that I'm playing him. And 7,500, I think, is a good price for him. He'll be low owned. He's right there, too. He's a good pivot play off of Rafa Cabrera-Bello, who's right in that same price range, who I think is going to be very high owned. So that's another reason I think you could play some Ben-On.
You got anybody else for me, Pat? Or are we ready to move into sportsbook bets?
No, I think let's move into some bets. We've been hot lately there, so maybe we spend a little more time this week on that than on DK.
All right. Well, I combed over the odds here, and I gotta say, the long odds are rather attractive on DK this week. I feel like there are a few names that are rather long on the DK Sportsbook, and they caught my attention. Now, 3 of them, I have 4 bets for this week. 3 of them are outright winners, and 1 of them is a top 10. I'll start with the top 10 bet just because he actually he popped in my statistical model, and that is Bryson DeChambeau. For top 10, he's a 33 to Bronson. Bronson. He is a 33 to 1 guy. All right, but if you look at his stats, he checks the box.
33 to 1. Wait, are you talking? Okay,
top
that's
10.
Not to win. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
33 to 1 to top 10, and he checks the box in greens and regulation. Good drives gained, and he putts well on Bermuda. He's also the minimum price on DraftKings. Bermuda's his best putting surface. I think Bryson DeChambeau is an interesting play. 33 to 1 as a top 10. It's a Keith Mitchell type number at 33 to 1 for a top 10. So that's all. If I look at outright winners and I start with the shortest odds guy, Adam Hadwin at 90 to 1 on DraftKings feels a little suspect. Great ball striker, great long iron player, fantastic putter, checks all 3 boxes there. Hadwin's at 7,700 on DraftKings if you're interested in terms of DFS. But Finished 36th here in 2016 and 6th in 2017. So give me Hadwin at 90-1. I like those odds for a proven PGA Tour winner. All right, so those are my first two. Let me hear what you got before I wrap it up with my last two.
All right. Well, I'm going to say I like the Hadwin bet. I'm going to go a little shorter on the to win odds, and I think Poulter at 33-1. I think those are some good odds there. I wouldn't mind throwing a few bucks there. Also, as I mentioned, we just got done talking about byeong-hun. I like him at 90-1, but I'm going to give you a combo bet here. This is a combo special for you at 150-1 to win, but also 100-1 on first round leader. And that is Patrick Rodgers. I think that is a good play. He's 100-1 for the first round leader, and he's 150-1 to win. This is a guy that we've seen play well here in the past. As a matter of fact, in 2 of his last 3 visits here, he was 7th last year. He was top 20 2 years ago. And you know what? His recent form's actually been pretty good. He was 30th just a couple weeks ago, then 15th at the Genesis. So I think that Patrick Rodgers is a great bet there. I mean, I love that. 150-1 to win, and then 100-1 in the first round leader, which he's been known to do. He comes out hot. Yeah. So I like those. So there's a little combo bet for you.
Pat, I got to give you some props on that call. I like that call. Give me a little fist bump through the interwebs. Nope. You got to go to the side of the other side. Nope. A fist to the other side. Use your other arm to give me the. Oh yeah, there we go. Guys, forgive Pat. He just turned 42.
Last week.
Yikes. I do.
You like that one though.
I do like that. I do like that call. I mean, he does come out pretty hot sometimes. He's a guy who can put 1 to 2 rounds together every now and then and just get lit on the golf course. But he can't finish a tournament. So I like that number, especially if he comes out in the early morning wave on Thursday. By the way, if you're interested in learning a little first round leader bet strategy and game theory, we talked about it at the end of the Tour Junkies podcast this week. Go check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, my last two. I'm going to give you a 2-time winner in Matt Every at 100-1. I'm surprised you didn't talk about him, or maybe you have him written down. I mean, Matt Every has been the laughingstock of the PGA Tour for a couple of years now. He's just fallen out of form, but lately, and I mean like in the last 5 tournaments the guy's played, he has been lights out. And he clearly loves Bay Hill, as he's won here twice. By the way, one time he won here, you know what his odds were, Pat? 300-1. 300-1. He was a winner. He is 100-1 right now on DraftKings. I think that's an interesting play. And finally, if Matt Every is 100-1, the fact that this guy's 250-1 is still a little shocking to me. I went way down there. Harris English at 250-1. Here's a great example, just like Keith Mitchell last week. A good old boy from Georgia who loves him some Bermuda, who doesn't want to play on POA putting surfaces on the West Coast, so he's got bad form coming in, but he welcomes that Bermuda putting. That's exactly what happened to Harris English last week. He just didn't win. Keith Mitchell won. Harris English finished tied for 12th. The boy likes Bermuda. He plays here pretty well. He's okay. It's a long shot, but 250-1 for a guy who likes this golf course, putts really well on Bermuda, finished T12 a week ago. I think English is interesting, a little half unit maybe on English at 250-1. That's it for me. I'm out.
I'm done. That's all I got.
Awesome. Tour Junkies After Dark. We'll be back next week. It's the Players Championship, y'all.
Players Championship.
Can't wait. And then before you know it, dum 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 dum. It'll be Masters time, baby, right here in our backyard. Can't wait. Be back next week. Please leave a comment here on the. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, all that good stuff. Subscribe, blah blah blah. Check out the Tour Junkies. We love you. May your screens be green. See ya.